Hello again, and today is another wonderful, glorious day. I can hear a couple of birds around. I can't quite see them, but I can hear them, and it's really a beautiful day. I just want to show you my neighbor's garden because he's got a really beautiful garden for birds and stuff like this. And being spring now and planting season, soon the birds will start to make a nest and stuff like this. And you know, this is right next to me. So have a look at a couple of these pictures. So as you can see, he's got this really tranquil garden, a lovely haven for birds. He feeds them prolifically and he loves his animals, his birds. His only problem is, of course, the cats, and there are loads of cats around that come through and think the birds are a tasty meal. And indeed, I think they are too. You know, that's the balance of life and nature and everything else. But this is where I'm working in amongst, and it is really nice to have a neighbor as wonderful as that, as keeps his garden so beautiful. So anyway, enough of that now. Let me crack on and do my garden beds, because I'm sure when I'm finished there'll be lots of place for the birds to nibble on. Sometimes wantingly and sometimes not so wanted. But anyway, let me carry on now. Well, I've got my tools, and this is the bed that I'm going to be tackling now. It's got a lot of weeds in it, and a lot of little bushes and stuff, so it's going to be hard going, but once I'm finished, it'll be a perfect bed for vegetables. Okay, what I'm going to be doing today is, as I'm digging for the weeds, and I'm weeding it out, I'm going to be throwing all the weeds into this bucket, so that I can keep everything close at hand. And let me try and now start getting in. Oh, blimey, this is hitting quite a few rocks over here. The toil seems to be really tough. But it is coming up, which is a good thing. Oh, some of these roots are really, really big. They've got big clumps in them. Let me just try and get that a little deeper, because that one broke off. There seems to be rocks right about here. Let me... There we go. Oh, look at that. Yeah, some of these roots are really, really old and embedded quite deeply. I'm just going to lift some out, I think, and put it in my barrow. Oops, wrong bucket. As you can see, this earth is also very healthy. It's got a whole lot of worms in as well. And I haven't got very far into the bed. I've just taken a couple of forkfuls. This is about 1.5 feet into the bed, and I'm coming across quite a number of worms, which is great. Makes man's heart happy when he sees that. I managed to take this bunch of bulb flowers out all in one go with a fork, which is quite nice, because now I want to break it up. I put it in the wheelbarrow so that none of the bulbs escape into the soil. Now I can just sort of break it apart and separate all the bulbs like this, and there's lots of them. You see, some haven't got any stems at all, and hopefully, doing it this way will save me on weeding later, because here I'm be able to examine it more closely. Let me get down here. Soil is beautiful. There's loads of worms in here, little ones as well, so they're breeding nicely. Yeah, I've got this big bush here I've dug out, and it came out quite nicely. All I had to do is get the fork underneath it, nothing like the other day, and then I'll just put it in here, see how much of the soil I can collect off this, because it's a really, really big bush. There's lots of worms around these roots, lots and lots of them. So yeah, and this one I think I'm just going to put straight into the bin, because there's a little bush that I've got in there, and we'll see how it goes. Well, I'm about 3/4 of the way through this bed, and it's been really heavy going. I've got a whole bucket full of weeds here, and some of the weeds have been like really big. Look at this one. That was the top of it, and look at the size of this, and it broke off under the ground, and it's still about ½ an inch thick there. So I couldn't find the rest, but this must be a good 12 inches or so. So it's a really long root on a weed, and there's been quite a few of them that have had roots like this. Take a look at this one. Also, trying to dig it out has been a tremendous amount of work, but I'm getting there, and they're slowly coming about, and I'm getting all the weeds out, which is a good thing. And but right now my hands are cold because it's been in the soil, and breaking up all the clods and stuff like this. But one thing I can say about this soil, it is full of life. There are so many worms, especially around these bulbs, these daffodils. Gosh, when I get a clump about this size, you can bet your bottom dollar there's about 10 worms, if not more, in that. So it's been a really interesting experience digging this bed, and it's got enough grit and stuff like that, so I think it's a pretty nice sort of loamy soil. I mean, if I crush it like this, it stays together, but a little bit of pressure, it just sort of breaks apart, and which is normally a sign, I think, of really good, perfect sort of soil. So I'm really happy with the soil. I've also been digging out a lot of snails just lying on the top, doing random stuff. But anyway, right now I'm off for a cup of coffee and to warm up my hands, and then I'll be back in the garden. I'll see you then. Well, it's begun to rain outside, and that's not a good thing, because I don't really like to garden in the rain. But I've got one bush to pull out that I want to try and pull out before it rains too much. So I'm going to get cracking. Oh. You see, this is the big fern that I want to try and get out. And it's a big one. I've already loosened it up quite a bit. And it looks like it might come out now. Now, I've got a little more on this side here. Oh, yep, I think he's coming out now. Yep, I've got him out, and luckily, and mostly in one piece. So let me just try and break off some of the soil of what I can, and there's a real big fern this, and I think it's been around for a while. Let me just see. I don't think I'm going to get much more soil off this. But what I want to do is try and get my secateurs or pull off some of this that I'll then put in my compost bin, because a lot of the stuff has already begun to rot down or decompose, break down, and it'll just be nice to add some stuff like this to the compost before I throw everything else away. But this is a real big fern, and it was quite happy to grow here, and it's been using its own weeds as a mulch. And I think because this garden has just been left on its own, it's actually very mulched and very rich and fertile. My big job, of course, is to keep it that way, because I'm going to be using it as a productive garden, so I'm going to be taking away from it all the time, and I have to feed it back good compost to keep it in. Look at the worms already here. Everywhere I dig there's worms. Isn't that great? So anyway, this is the one that I mainly wanted out. It's really heavy. Whew. There we go. Well, there's that one in. And that bin is full. And that's just from 2 of my small beds of weeds. Well, what do you think of that? Well, anyway, the camera's getting very wet now, so I'm going to go inside and call it a day. Well, the rain decided to hold off for a while, so I quickly got stuck in, and I dug this big bush out as well. That was the one in the corner. Now, these branches, and of these, I want to keep them, because I want to use them for my hugelkultur. So I'm just going to sit here now and quickly, with my secateurs, just chop them up into nice manageable lengths, and then add them to the wood clipping pile that I've got over there in the food forest, because it'll be really, really nice to have lots of organic matter underneath the fruit trees that'll stay there for a while, and it'll control the moisture and everything inside the under the beds, and it should give ideal sort of conditions for the trees. So the only parts, of course, I don't want are the roots. I'm scared they'll grow, so I'll chuck them to one side and slowly sort of make my way through this bush. And then yes, it is getting rather late now, but I'm happy with what I've done. I've done that entire one bed, and then tomorrow I'll crack on with the other bed, and that one, it's got a lot of weeds, but it doesn't have any bushes like this one did. So while I know I've had some really, really big monster weeds, I should be able to cope with it a whole lot easier, and I'll see tomorrow how far I can get, and yeah, and then get cracking with the planting next week. Okay, for now, I thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes! Please subscribe!